Hello, dear students. Welcome to Pen and Paper Chemistry on YouTube. How are you all doing? Are you taking good care of your health? Eating healthy food? Doing some exercises? We are continuing with our topic of alcohols today. And in my last video, I had introduced to you the flowchart method of remembering the properties and preparation of organic compounds. And we'll continue from there. And in this video, we're going to talk about the properties of alcohols. So if you see over here, the properties of alcohols have been divided into a number of categories. The first one is involving the cleavage or the breaking down of the OH bond. You can see here the reactivity order is primary, greater than secondary, greater than tertiary. So if the bond OH is breaking, that means H positive is being released during the course of the reaction. Does that mean that the alcohols are acidic in nature? Interestingly, yes, they are. But their acidity is even lower than that of water. They react with active metals to liberate hydrogen gas, as is known about the acids. Acids also react with active metals to liberate hydrogen. But the interesting thing over here is alcohols do not show any of the other behavior of the carboxylic acids or acids in general. They don't react with carbonates, they don't react with bicarbonates, they don't turn blue litmus to red. So if you see, their acidic nature is just limited to liberating hydrogen from or liberating hydrogen with the help of active metals like sodium, magnesium, aluminium, potassium, and so on. We come to the second behavior which corresponds to the breaking of the OH bond, and it is called acylation. Acylation means a replacement by the acyl group. You remember we spoke about Friedel-Crafts acylation, so replacement by R-CO group is acylation. Now, when this reaction takes place with carboxylic acids, the reaction is known as esterification because the product that you are forming over here is a sweet smelling compound, it's an ester. This reaction of esterification takes place in the presence of concentrated H2SO4. Why? Because the reaction of alcohols with carboxylic acids is a reversible reaction. So the products, that is your ester and water, can recombine to give you back the alcohol and the acid. So what are we going to do? We are going to take away that water from here by using concentrated H2SO4. Come to the second set of reactions. So we are going to talk about the breaking of the COH bond. Now, breaking of the COH bond, we've again got two categories. If you notice over here, the properties that I have listed over here, I've given them different colors. And as I mentioned in my previous video, colors help you to remember and recall the reactions very easily. It's tested by students, a number of students. Students who were failing in organic chemistry reached the 70 percentile mark just with the help of these flowcharts. So these are time tested. Draw them on an A4 size sheet, use sketch pens, use colored ballpoint pens, do something colorful in life, right? So we talk about the breaking of the COH bond. Now if you see over here, the reactivity order is tertiary, secondary, primary. Tertiary being the most reactive. Now if you are taking away the OH from the alcohol, is it easy to do that? No, it's not easy. It's not easy to remove the OH from here. That means the alcohols do not undergo nucleophilic substitution reactions so easily as do alkyl halides. right? Why? We are going to talk about that when we do the reactions, when we write the proper reactions. This is just introductory video to explain you the flow chart. Also the reactivity order, tertiary, secondary, primary. You see, if I take away the OH, we'll have an alkyl group over here. What type of alkyl group will be formed if you have a tertiary alcohol? Obviously, it's a tertiary alkyl group. And that alkyl group will carry a positive charge. So it's a tertiary carbocation. Does that ring a bell? Does that connect you to reaction mechanisms that we did? We have videos on the channel pertaining to the stability order of carbocations, carbanions, and free radicals. So if you remember here, the tertiary carbocations are most stable, followed by secondary and then the primary. And that explains the reactivity order. The interesting reaction over here is the Lucas test, where we react the alcohol with HCl. You notice over here we are using an acidic medium. So the acidic medium will actually help us to lure the OH away. So OH thinks, oh, there is hydrogen and I'll get converted to water. What an easy way. And that is what helps to replace the OH by Cl. Now the interesting bit, because tertiary is most reactive, what will happen is the alkyl halide will be formed immediately in the case of tertiary alcohols. In fact, you don't even need zinc chloride in order to carry out this reaction with the tertiary alcohols. And what do you get? We know that alkyl halides are insoluble in water. So you get turbidity. There is immediate cloudiness. Turbidity means like cloud-like appearance. So there is immediate turbidity if your alcohol is tertiary. If, on the other hand, your alcohol is secondary, of course, you will need to treat it with Lucas reagent completely, that is HCl and zinc chloride. This combination is known as Lucas reagent, and this test is known as Lucas test. So if it's a secondary alcohol, you'll get turbidity in 5 minutes. What about primary? Lazy people don't want to react. So at room temperature, there is no turbidity at all. So you see over here, this flow chart is giving you, or it is also helping you to study the reactivity order. It is also helping you to remember the name reaction. So for example, esterification or Lucas test. It is also helping you to put the reagents in one place. So it's an all-in-one flow chart. And don't forget the conversions, right? So alcohols are getting converted into the alkyl halides. Of course, the secondary and the tertiary, not the primary, they are getting converted as well. In fact, there's an alternate way to convert alcohols to alkyl halides. How do we do that? By reacting with compounds like PCl3, phosphorus trichloride, PBr3, phosphorus tribromide, SOCl2, red phosphorus and HI. That's PCl5 as well, right? So all of these are causing the alcohols to convert into the alkyl halide, which is not easy, right? Please do continue following the channel, because we will be writing the reactions for each one of these. Come to dehydration now. So dehydration can be done. So dehydration means you remove water. So if you remove water from the alcohol, we are left with an alkene. But what type of alkene will be formed will depend on the stability of the intermediate, and Zaitsev rule makes that easy for us. We will discuss that later on. Dehydration with concentrated H2SO4, H3PO4, anhydrous zinc chloride Alumina at 623 Kelvin. All of this results in the conversion of alcohols to alkene. Next, we come to the oxidation reactions. Alcohols can be oxidized to various products depending on the oxidizing agent that you have used. So if you see over here, I've listed the various oxidizing agents. We don't use all of them in one go. That is why I put these arrows indicating, okay, you can use chromic acid. So you have K2Cr2O7, H2SO4, which is actually orange in color. If this gets reduced, yes, if this gets reduced, it will turn to green. Potassium permanganate in an alkaline medium, which is originally purple in color. Potassium permanganate in an acidic medium. Or you also have chromic oxide in an acidic medium, chromic acid that we've got. Here, a primary alcohol will get oxidized to an aldehyde because all these are oxidizing agents. So themselves they are getting reduced, but they are oxidizing the primary, secondary or the tertiary alcohol. The difference lies in the products which are formed. Primary alcohols get converted to aldehydes containing the same number of carbon atoms. And on further treatment and on continuing the contact with the strong oxidizing agents, it gets converted into acids, again having the same number of carbon atoms. Why am I stressing on the word same again and again? You must be wanting to know, what do we mean by this N carbon, N carbon? N carbon means, so supposing my initial alcohol is C2H5OH, the aldehyde that I get will be CH3CHO. So that also has 2 carbon atoms. The acid that I will get will be CH3COOH, again with 2 carbon atoms. So the number of carbon atoms remains the same. If on the other hand it's a secondary alcohol, it gets converted into a ketone but with the same number of carbon atoms. And we can carry out tests for ketones, right, in order to identify them. If it's a tertiary alcohol, interestingly, it gets broken. It can't take up the pressure of the strong oxidizing agents. So it actually breaks down as well as gets oxidized. So we have the tertiary alcohol getting converted into a lower ketone. That is why I have not put N carbon, because the number of carbon atoms will become less now. Don't worry. Again and again I'm saying the same thing. We'll write the reactions, but you draw this flow chart, you make this flow chart, put it near your study table, put it near your dining table, put it near your kitchen, where you eat, where you spend 3 meals of your day, wherever you sit. You just make a flow chart, go through the flow chart of one compound 3 times a day, and the properties become embedded. Now here I am not asking you to memorize. No. What I am asking you to do is to revisit, revise. That is what your teachers keep telling you. Revise. And that's what you are doing 3 times a day. And plus at the same time, this flow chart gives you a bird's eye view as well. You see, you have everything at a glance in this particular flow chart. Okay, let me come back to dehydrogenation. So dehydrogenation is also oxidation only, wherein this is getting converted into a different oxidation state. Correct? Now whether that will be higher or lower, think about it. So what happens is, in the case of dehydrogenation, you carry it out in the presence of copper at 300 degrees Celsius. That's 573 Kelvin. Primary alcohols get converted to aldehydes containing the same number of carbon atoms. Secondary, on the other hand, get converted into ketones, again containing the same number of carbon atoms. Whereas the tertiary alcohols get converted into alkenes. They, as I said, they can't take that pressure, they break down. Coming to the reaction specific to ethanol, why did I write it in the flow chart wherein I was talking about the general behavior? That's because many of the curriculums, they concentrate only on one alcohol rather than the entire set. So we've got ethanol. Interestingly, you see, in both these reactions, the reagents are the same. Concentrated H2SO4 at 410 Kelvin or concentrated H2SO4 at 443 Kelvin. You see the difference in the nature of the products formed? Here you are getting an ether, whereas here you are getting an alkene. What explains the difference in the formation of products is going to be discussed under reaction mechanism. Similarly, if you carry out the reaction in the presence of alumina at 473 Kelvin or Al2O3 at 623 Kelvin, the products are going to vary. When I'm writing the reagents like this, that does not mean that we are going to use both the reagents together. No, it's either this or this. In either of the conditions, you're going to get an ether. Whereas here, you're going to get an alkene. Okay, now I have also added to this flow chart another method to distinguish between primary, secondary and tertiary alcohols. And what is that method? As you can see on your screen, it's called as the Victor-Mair test to distinguish between alcohols. What do we do in this test? We've got an alcohol. You react it with red phosphorus and iodine. So it's going to give you a iodoalkane, haloalkane, right? You react this with silver nitrite. You get a nitroalkane. Then you react it with nitrous acid, right? Nitrous acid is generated in situ by taking NaNO2 and HCl, followed by alkaline hydrolysis, aqueous NaOH or aqueous KOH. If it is a primary alcohol, you get a blood red color. If it's a secondary alcohol, you get a blue color. If it's a tertiary alcohol, the solution remains colorless. Now, I couldn't put colorless over here because that wouldn't be visible. So, that is why I have put it in black. So, red for red, blue for blue and tertiary. This is known as the Victor-Mair test. Now, just recall the flow chart and can you tell me what is the other method by which we can distinguish between the different types of alcohols? Yes, of course, the Lucas test, right? I hope this makes your learning and ability to recall a little simpler. Let me know in the comment section your views on this flowchart and whether it was helpful or not. But honestly speaking, you want to understand and remember organic chemistry, you can't do that unless and until you write it. So make sure that you write the reactions, you draw this flowchart before I come up with the next video. Take care of yourself, stay happy, stay relaxed. That's the key to learning better. See you in the next video.